Back in 2022, I had the opportunity on 2 separate occasions to visit Belize. Neither of the times I was there, I was intending on creating a documentary. But what I found there was so compelling that I realized I had to take advantage of my time and to capture the nuances of where I was staying. To understand the story that I want to tell you, you need a little context. Belize, once called British Honduras, was a British colony until 1981. That means its political system is still young and is still trying to define itself. The country sits tucked between Mexico, Guatemala, and the Caribbean Sea. It's small, tropical, and ecologically diverse. Because Belize is still a developing country, there is a lot of political challenges. When I asked locals what life is like, the word that kept coming up was unstable. Every major election in Belize brings a near total turnover in the government, which creates long stretches of uncertainty. Policies shift, priorities shift, and the people feel the ripple effects: crime, corruption, and uneven development. Belize is also a demographically divided nation. The population is a blend of Creole and Garifuna communities with African heritage, alongside large indigenous Mayan and Mestizo populations. And these groups have their own cultures, their own histories, their own priorities. And in a young political system, those differences sometimes create tensions. There's different expectations of leaders, different ideas about development, and different memories of the past. Outside the main tourist locations, much of Belize is rural, consisting of villages and small towns scattered between jungle, farmlands, and the coast. There are only 2 true cities. There's the old capital, Belize City, and the new one, Belmopan. Belmopan was built inland after a hurricane nearly wiped the former capital off the map in 1961. Today, Belmopan has the feel of a quiet administrative outpost. Although by Belize's standards, it's a city, it's small and inconspicuous. Still, it's not without its struggles. The main industries that support Belize's economy are primarily tourism and agriculture. So, while Belmopan and Belize City are the major hubs for local life, most of the tourism happens on the outlying islands, such as Key Calker or San Pedro. Right off the coast of Belize is the second biggest barrier reef on Earth, the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef. So there are plenty of opportunities for ocean tourism. Being close to the equator and on the coast, the natural ecosystem and geography offer one of 2 climates, tropical or dense jungle. And that's where this story begins. The subjects of our story chose the jungle for their home. And in 1973, the same year that Belize received its new name, a young cowboy from Montana, John Carr, and his wife Carolyn arrived here, looking for a place to ranch cattle. These Americans stepped into a new country and chose to carve out a life in a landscape that was beautiful, unpredictable, and underdeveloped. This is the story of Banana Bank and the couple at the center of it.
I had a business partner, and he says, I've been studying this National Geographic's magazine 1972 issue about Belize. The Awakening Land was the name of it. He says, I think I can grow corn there. I said, I think you're crazy. About 3 weeks later, a guy called me out of the blue and says, I've got a client in McLean, Virginia that wants to sell a place called Banana Bank in British Honduras, and I felt an urgency to call you and tell you about it. And we thought it was a God thing, and we came the next day. We flew from Denver to New Orleans and threw a prop airplane from New Orleans to Belize. 3 weeks later, we bought this property. It was 8,000 acres of land in 1973. And so I moved here full-time in 1977.
Long before the cars arrived north of Belmopan, Banana Bank served as a logging and trading outpost on the Belize River, part of a colonial-era company's holdings. When John and a business partner bought the land, the property was run down and overgrown. But John and his wife Carolyn saw potential. They worked the cattle, they restored the buildings, and they cultivated the land.
Well, it's basically a cattle ranch. It's a country that has a lot of challenges, but I think it causes people to be creative and productive and innovative. In 1986, we built a single unit, a small little thatch house, and began calling it the Banana Bank Lodge. But initially, it didn't set out to be a hotel. The initial idea was to be a cattle ranch.
Over time, John Carr realized that he didn't need all the land that he owned. So he began giving it away carefully, deliberately. and always to causes that he believed would strengthen Belize in the long run. His 8,000-acre cattle ranch slowly transformed into a 4,000-acre lodge, ranch, and a jungle retreat.
I've helped global outreach. That's a boys' ranch. The guy just left here, and on down the road I donated the land for my church, and on down the road from that I donated the land to Wildland Youth with a Mission, and served on a lot of boards within the country and tried to make Belize a better place.
Those organizations have, in turn, provided land and opportunity to other ministries across the country, including Freedom House, which is a halfway house that disciples men coming out of Belize Central Prison. And my initial trip down to Belize was to work with this ministry and inside this prison.
We got this piece of property which belongs to Youth with a Mission, which is right across the river.
Because the Lord told me this, that I would extend your territory, and I was looking over here and he gave me 2 dreams about this land. I said, go and see the guy, and he went and see the guy.
And we lease it for $1 a year. So that's 50 cents US a year. We lease this property.
I think the most important scripture in the Bible almost, I think it says it this way, isn't it? More blessed to give than to receive. So I think the real reward is from helping others and giving. That's the real reward.
John is a self-proclaimed horse whisperer, and the ranch reflects that identity.
Well, as a small country hotel, what makes us a little different than others is horses. We try to use horses in a lot of our operation about horse whispering, and we have a lot of horse camps for young people.
Riders of all experience levels explore riverbanks, open savanna, and jungle trails that feel far removed from civilization. Much of the land that he kept is still used for ranching, teakwood cultivation, and sugarcane production. John manages the ranch with the same long-term mindset he brings to everything that he does.
We do a lot of horse riding, and we have about 20 rooms, and people spend the night, and we have a nice swimming pool.
We have some rooms that have air conditioning, some don't. The thatch roof cabanas are something like what you might do if you lived in a jungle setting.
I think when we came here, there was just 3 or 4 old wooden buildings, and after a while, we started to get into the hospitality hotel business.
Carolyn Carr played a crucial role in shaping Banana Bank. With a background in art, she became the de facto architect of the towering main lodge.
She kind of put the plans together, and we didn't have one contractor. We did it all with day labor. But we had day labor that hardly any could speak English, but they knew how to build a cement pillar and how to make a floor thick enough to stay there. It's kind of amazing. We look back ourselves and we don't even know how it happened.
Curved staircases, pastel stucco walls, and a solid concrete tower gives the building an eclectic, handmade character. It feels built in stages because it was, constructed slowly as the cars could afford materials and hire labor. But Carolyn's influence extends far beyond the building's exterior. On the top floor sits her private art gallery, her true creative sanctuary.
From an early age, I've always loved art. It's really important to be willing to make adjustments and be willing to be flexible. I never set out to be a fine artist. I wanted to be a commercial artist. I went to Utah State University and have a degree in design. I started painting here in Belize. There was hardly anyone who were painting the local people or the local culture.
Her art is part of Banana Bank's identity. It's woven into the walls, the atmosphere, and the legacy of the place. Her medium is oil-based, whether pastel or paint. She even prepares her own canvases by hand.
Oils is a very forgiving medium. It's, for me, much easier than watercolors. But anyway, I've always been an oil painter. There's just a wealth of things that could be recorded that hadn't been too much up to now. Nobody needs a commercial artist here, but I guess I can paint pictures. So that's how I evolved from a commercial artist to a fine artist. Rather than having a packaged, ready solution. You have to be a little bit more original and creative, and to me that's one of the good qualities of this country.
Banana Bank also houses a free museum containing artifacts uncovered during archaeological digs on the property.
Well, her artwork is in a category by itself. That's kind of her dimension. My dimension of the Maya element of artifacts is something that I'm very interested in.
The pottery and tools suggest that the land was once home to Mayan communities, dating back as far as 500 BC. John would never admit to it on camera, but his private museum is believed to be the largest personal Mayan artifact collection in Belize.
I believe that around 800 or 900, I believe there were 1 million Mayas living in Belize. And because every corner we turn to here, we're going to find artifacts. That way, there's a big mound by a pink corral. That's a Maya mound. I dug in there one day, I needed some dirt, and I went in there with the front end loader, and I started digging it out, and I found a pot about this big full of bones. So there's Maya artifacts everywhere, and nobody really knows exactly what happened. And they always say it was either drought or flood or sickness or whatever. And so what happens when a war happens and both sides have the same weapons and they're not very powerful, and you and I fight, and I have a sword and a knife and you have a sword and a knife, and I have 30,000 on my team and you've got 30,000 on your team, and we wade into each other, that's a pretty bloody mess, and there's hardly any winners come out of that deal. And I think that's the sort of thing that happened here with the Mayas.
Artifacts aren't the only thing that John collects, though. In addition to Mesoamerican history, he has made a habit of taking in exotic and rescued wildlife.
Again, because of the nice climate, it's a climate for a lot of things, and maybe we've had about 5 or 6 macaw parrots, blue and gold macaw parrots, red macaws, scarlet macaws, and my wife likes birds, and so she's the bird person, and we have a lot of birds around. But even in the jungle, we have a lot of birds. Belize is a tremendous bird watching destination for a lot of people.
He talks freely about the birds that Banana Bank keeps, which tend to be more Carolyn's passion. But he's more discreet about the jaguar he keeps on the property, a rescued wildcat he named Tika 2. The namesake is after his first rescued jaguar, Tika, who lived a full life of 25 years and passed. Over time, John has become the quiet, unofficial contact for animals that need a place to live, a role born from his reputation, his ranching instincts, and his willingness to accommodate the unusual.
Been a great experience to be a pioneer in a tropic situation. I have had a pistol stuck in my throat here from some robbers come into our house, and I've had maybe 150 head of cattle stolen, and so I've been through a lot of very pioneering type life.
After 50 years in Belize, the Cars have become a mainstay in the country's story. Their work has always been guided by a simple desire, to make Belize a better place. They understand its instability, its poverty, and its struggles, and they've committed their lives to contributing something stable, generous, and lasting.
What people need to realize is that when you have a developing country, you can't expect all the convenience and comfort that people are used to in developed countries.
There's not hardly any places in the world like Belize that have 400,000 people. Everything takes good leadership. And we're lacking leadership now in Belize, I feel, and I would like to ask God to come down and put honest leadership into place.
At the end of the day, John just wants to be a cowboy and Carolyn just wants to create art. They came to Belize searching for a place to build a life, and in the midst of the jungle, along the quiet bend of the Belize River, they built something more than a ranch. They built a community, a refuge, and in their own way, a culture of their own.
I think that if there's anything underneath the whole thing, it's the being able to contribute and belong to something.
I hope you've enjoyed this little expose on Banana Bank and John and Carolyn Carr. It's a rich story to tell, and I'm honored that I was able to tell it. Until next time, this has been Ben Fenton with Narrowcast Productions.